Today we are talking about my best practice, EHR, which is one I really did not know anything about. And so we'll get into it first with pricing and all their features. So HIPAA compliant, they have customizable intake forms, questionnaires, homework that you can send to clients, things like that you can schedule to send out, a client portal and online scheduling, billing built in, telehealth, but the telehealth is $20 a month per professional, so that's something to keep in mind. So the cost is $30 a month, $39 a month for the first person, and then $19 a month for additional professionals. But it seems like you can have as many billers. Yeah, you can have as many schedulers, billers, other people in the account too. So you're not paying for them, which is great. But it could get pricey if you have a group practice and you want to include the telehealth. So that's something to keep in mind. It has a mobile app, which is cool, and all of those things. So we'll head on over into the actual platform. So this is the calendar, and you can change. So you can change the colors for if it's a personal appointment, a scheduled appointment, a missed appointment, or one that's already been billed. So you can easily see on your calendar sort of like what's happening. And you can see here that this person who's for tomorrow has not paid for their appointment yet, but that it will cost this much. But you can see the $0 there so that you know it hasn't been charged yet. And, pretty standard calendar. It has a list view and a day view, so you can see your day. And although it doesn't have a month view, which I really like a month view, but so that's just something to note. And in the settings, I think if you were doing like the list view, you can group the appointments together. And you can hide names, balances, those types of thing. And the nice thing about, again, where you can see if they owe or not yet. So because the session hasn't happened, they don't owe anything yet, but after the session happens, it will show that what they owe, which I think is great. They have good onboarding stuff that it walked me through a bunch of setup stuff. So that was great. You can easily add a client, a new session, take a payment. So you can actually, I haven't set this up yet, so you can't do it yet, but you can easily record a payment here. So if someone paid, you could put it there. Or once you have the payment processor set up, you can take that card information right here, which I think is nice sometimes. And then you can create an invoice easily too. And so some other cool things, if it will load, sorry about that. So this shows, let's do this month. It shows you your sessions, whether they're billed, scheduled, how much. So just a nice overview there. Gives you a nice client list too. One thing I like about the client list is it shows you okay, this person doesn't have any contact information. They haven't been sent the intake packet. They don't have access to the portal. Treatment plan is missing. Payment is missing, all of that. So I really liked that. I like that you can see the first seen, last seen dates. And if they owe a balance or anything like that. So I think it's a nice overview, especially maybe if you have a group practice or something like that, a nice overview of what's going on with your clients. Then with billing, so you can see what's already been billed, the charge, and all of that, and what that person's balance is. And so that's nice. And then reporting, I think they actually have really great reports built into their system. So you can see billing versus collected, which I think is always a nice thing. And it even shows you like appointments, if they were actual appointment, if it was a missed appointment, that's in there. So again, these are just really helpful things. Forecasting, which I always think is fun to see, like how many sessions you have scheduled, how much money you're likely to make in each month. And I think that's a wonderful tool to have. Payroll. So again, if you have a group practice, it will help you calculate that. And I think you can set up some settings so that it does payroll properly if you have like split fees, things like that. Note status report, again, always a helpful one, I think. So you can see, oh, I have a missing note here, and you can see how many have been completed, all of that kind of stuff. What I really liked was this client retention report. So it shows if a client completed intake but is no longer active, they show up in red. Client moved past intake but is inactive and has less than 8 sessions. So someone who's just maybe done a couple, but not a lot of sessions. So, and I love how it's like session 1, session 2, you can just easily see how long clients are staying with you. And then green is client is active, but has not yet completed 8 sessions. So I thought this was a really cool thing that I haven't seen quite the same in other systems. Their referrals are great. So you can have it in your intake paperwork, things like that, but different places where you might get a referral from. And so you can easily see like, okay, got this from Google or another counselor or something like that. So I thought that was great. And then a client birthday one, if you want, that shows up there. And then another great thing are their messages. So you can send bulk messages to all your clients, which I think is great. So you can add all clients and it will, CC them, but you can attach things to it. You can make it really nice so that you're really keeping all of your email communication within the client portal and through this system so that it remains HIPAA compliant. So I think that's really, really great feature, easy to use, all of that. Another thing I love is the to-do list. And clients actually have a to-do list on their end in the portal, which I was playing around with too, which I think is really cool. So it has these like red things if you have something. So I have 2 clients who are missing diagnoses. And I have one missing session note and, all of that. So all of these different things, I think that's really, really a nice feature. Easy to see what's missing, what needs to be done. And yeah, so I thought that was neat. Then we'll head on over to the settings. So you can, put your practice logo up there, things like that. You can edit how your invoice shows up and what's included on the invoice, which is always good. And let's see. So it does group appointments. You'll see in a few places where you can have group appointments. But one thing I really like is you can copy and paste from either your previous note. You can set it up from that, or you can autofill from up to the 5 previous notes, which I think is a great feature. I have that. I use Intake Queue and they have that, and I use it all the time. Sometimes it's nice to just be reminded what we talked about in the previous session, and then it just gets me jump started on the note. So you can edit the billing on locked notes, which I think is a nice thing. And you can add supervision staff in, you can change your calendar border color. And let's see, something else. Oh, if you work with young kids, you can include the months and the client's age, which is really useful, I think, sometimes if you're working with young kids. And then under invoice, like I said earlier, you can have different invoice settings. You can auto-generate super bills, which I think is great. And then they can go out, and they'll be in the client's portal on the first of the month or whatever, which I think is great. And under clinical, so you can have default session notes, and I'll show you how you can change these notes later, but you can even change like what kind of methodology you use and like what that means. And you can have default treatment plans, intake interviews, case conceptualizations, like lots of different settings that you can change. Another thing I really liked was the missed session section. So you can auto bill for different reasons. So let's say they no-showed, maybe that's a fee that you have that's different than if they cancel or something like that. And I like that you can change these and you can define what each one of these means. But canceled, maybe your fee is $100, but if they no-show you, it's your full session fee or something like that. So you can have different ones. And then if the clinician cancels, it's $0 or something. So anyway, I thought that was a really cool thing that you can have different settings for that. You can add in some more custom fields. So there's a lot of auto text options, which I'll show you later. But so these are all the options that you have. You can just choose the ones that you actually want. So you could hide the rest. And then you can set up your default rates. So that way, when people book, it's, set at a certain way, and then you can add in as many services as you want so that the default rate is there. And then the client portal, you can enroll the client by default, use a client nickname as preferred name, which can be really great. Depending on your population that you're working with, you can have a welcome message. And you can have client messaging within the portal. Again, just a great way to keep things strictly within the system and not through emails. You can have the booking widget for existing clients. So not just, maybe you can choose not to have it if you don't want existing clients to book through the widget. They have to contact you. So I think that can be nice. And they can access documents, sessions, homework, billing, invoicing, or you can choose for them not to. How far in advance they can schedule an appointment, another great feature. And I think, so what should happen when a client cancels through the portal? It's either deleted or mark it as missed, which is probably important to have that marked as missed so you can see that it was supposed to be there. So I think those are some great options. So some insurance settings here, you can auto file claims. And a lot of these things, I don't take insurance, so I don't necessarily know how great these features are. And you can have different appointment reminders, things like that. You can edit the reminder message, those types of things, which I think is great. You can even send balance notifications on like a weekly schedule if you need to, and auto pay notifications, things like that. So a lot of great, reminder options, different things. They also have AI notes. So if you use the telehealth option, you can use AI to complete the notes for you, and you can tell it what format you want it in. It'll delete the recording after processing if you want. And it will automatically, so you can have it require approval so that the client knows, like, this is AI, and it gives you formats that you can do for different types of sessions. So those are all the practice settings, lots of settings. And let's see. All right. So that was just under practice settings. Staff and users. So again, you can have yourself, non-clinical staff, teams. So if you have a different practice locations or something like that, and then you can give My Best Practice access to your account for support if you need it. You can add in different, again, if you have different locations or you want to have different rooms that you want to be able to show up on your calendar, you can set that up here. And then these are all your, CPT codes here. You can import them, but it already came with all of these preloaded. And then this is some interesting things. So, it has all of the outcome measures, but here's something interesting you can use. So in your notes, you can set this up so that it has different already pre-populated, like let's say you use ACT. It came with all of these already on there, and you can go in, you can add more interventions that you commonly use, or you can delete some of these or whatever, or have them hidden so they don't show up in your notes. So then when you go into your note, you can actually just click like, this is what we did. So it helps you write the notes. So it has different things, and you can create all your own if you want to, which I thought was really interesting and a cool idea. And then it does the same thing for symptoms. So maybe you work with a lot of ADHD or depression or something like that. And again, this all came pre-populated. And so you can have just sort of like a grouping of symptoms. So this one's like under ADHD. And then you can check these off in your notes. So I think that's an interesting way to make notes a little bit easier. Probably a lot of back-end setup, but once you have it set up, I think it would make notes really easy. And then diagnosis, this is, comes pre-populated with all of the diagnostic codes and all of that. So definitely great that it comes pre-populated with this and makes doing notes really easy. Surveys and packets. So this works like a lot of other EHRs, but it comes with all of these pre-populated. They have homework cards, they have client satisfaction surveys, all of the things that you would need. And they have the good faith estimate, all of that kind of stuff. You can have a ROI stay in the client portal that they can access anytime and fill out. So if you need them to fill it out, it can just sort of sit there, which I think is really helpful. And so, I think that's great options there. You can add your own and build your own however you want. And then you can put things together into packets. So you can have like the adult intake packet, and that includes different, let's say it includes all of these surveys, which is a lot. Oh no, I see it's not included yet. So you can choose what you want to, I see. You choose what you want to include, and then you hit save changes. And so then that would be part of the intake packet. And then you can have different ones set up so that it's easy to send to people. And then here's another interesting thing. So you can set up cohorts. So a cohort might be like all of your kids. Let's say you do, you work with kids and you're running a group. Maybe it's like the anxiety group, anxiety girls group cohort. And so they get a specific packet assigned to them, and you can change which packet they get. Or maybe they're in this group and they need to get a weekly homework assignment or something like that. And you can schedule something to go to them, once a week, every other week, a month, customize it by session, all of that. So everyone just in that group will get that form once a week or whatever you decide. So I thought that was a really cool thing. And then you can set reminders. So that would be just for that cohort. So again, I think that's great if you're working with or maybe you're working with people who have severe depression and you want to make sure they're getting a certain intake or homework assignment every day or something like that. You could add them to a cohort and they would get that reminder every time. So I thought that was an interesting way to do things. And then you can do group therapy, which I think is great. And you can add clients to it, staff to it too, and then schedule out the sessions, although I guess maybe the sessions get scheduled on the calendar, but you would be able to see all of the past and future sessions here, which again, I think is always nice to have group capabilities. And then let's head back to some of the other settings. Online booking, again, you have your own little portal that you can do. You can import. They help with importing your past clients. So they have a whole, all these to-do lists and all of that to help you step-by-step instructions to help you migrate all of your clients over if you want to. Or they also offer migration for solo practice or a group practice. So $500 for the group practice and $299 for the solo practice one-time fee, which I think can definitely be worth it to get everyone set up. And then let's see, notes. So again, you can add, you can create your own session note, and it helps you like build it. So you can have a title and then a text box, and then it can look however you want, and then you can hit preview. So again, a nice feature, easy to create your own notes, things like that. And you can also create your own treatment plans. There we go. Treatment plans, case conceptualizations, intake interviews, those types of things. So let's say I want to add a note for John Doe here. And again, so there's lots of different sections to the note. You can choose the template. And again, you can create your own templates, change these templates, whatever you want to do. It has a place for diagnosis. So you can put that in, and any other like information about that, which I think is great. You can have them take a survey with you, like right then. And so you can just go ahead and like put that in if you wanted to do that in session, which I think is cool. And it will show them, if you have measures that you're doing surveys, it will show those values here, which I think is really great. And yeah, any documents you wanted to add to their file or anything like that. You can add an addendum to the note, which I think sometimes is nice. Maybe you don't need to actually unlock the note and all of that, but you do need to add something in there, and shows the activity logs too. So let's go back to the note. So if I just have this CBT note, you can add what we are going to talk about. So ahead of the session, I can have this in there, which I think is great, or, you know, during whatever. You can write your notes in, homework, next session agenda. And so here's where you can add in your symptoms. So this is the default that shows up. So you can edit this so all of this wouldn't necessarily show up. But, you know, let's say this, and we did this, interventions. So I think that's cool that will just show up in the note. You can add homework, things like that, a psychotherapy note that's, you know, kept separate. You can write down some other thoughts down there. And so yeah, so super cool note writing, I feel like. And if you wanted, you can do auto text, which is, you can choose. So again, you set this up. It has, you're doing ACT. Okay, let's do an ACT metaphor. Let's choose the chessboard, and then you hit next, and then it puts in this text for you. So it's sort of an autofill, not quite AI, but sort of. You can do the same thing with exercises, assessment, psychoed. So again, a lot of autofill stuff to help you do that. And then if you had a previous note in here, it could show up so you could see it, and you could copy it. But since I don't have any in there, it's not there. And then you can also take away certain things in the note too, if you don't want them. So again, I think it's a really cool system. I was surprised. I didn't really know much about it, but it seems really solid. I think it's a great system, definitely worth considering, especially maybe for solo practitioners. It does get pricey. If you have probably more than like 2 or 3 clinicians, I think it starts to get a little pricey, but otherwise, very solid platform. So if you've used it before, let me know.